me tell you about the facts of life. Sing it with me.
Take the good, take the bad, you take them both. There you have the facts of life. The facts of life. Take the good, take the bad.
Welcome back to Facts of Life. I am your host, Zakia, and I am joined by some lovely guests today. And would you guys like to introduce yourself, or you want me to introduce you?
Whichever is cool.
Okay. Introduce yourselves.
Okay, you go
You
first.
want to go first? Okay. My name is Tory. I also go by DJ out of Tory, Chef Tory D. I don't know a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm just a man.
Yeah. Thank you for coming too, Tori.
Oh, no
Appreciate
problem.
you. Tori was on the podcast like when I first started the show.
Like episode 3 or 2.
Yeah, like way back when. So that's how we connected. So I appreciate you for coming back 3 years later.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's still going.
Yes, thank you. All right.
My name is Shiva. I used to go by the name Michelle that my parents gave me, but I changed it because they didn't know what they were talking about. So
Okay.
I am a podcaster, and Zakia has been on my show, and I'm so proud of her, and I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that we finally had the chance to connect on the show. So I brought you guys here today because I want to have a conversation about bridging the gap between men and women, specifically in our community of melanated, brown people, black people, whatever floats your boat. So I want for us, my goal, and I don't have all the answers, so that's why, you guys are here to give your different perspectives, so, to get people thinking. But I want to come to an understanding about what we need from each other in order for us to be on the same page, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of conversation on and off. Well, I mainly see it on the internet, to be honest, but on the internet about black women, melanated women not being protected in our communities. So I just want us to have dialogue and conversation about that. And I wanted DJ Auditory to come on because I remember watching his story on Instagram, and he was talking about why men aren't doing their due diligence in protecting melanated women. And I remember you said something about leading with love and having love in your heart. And so could you expand on that a little bit more?
Well, I think with that concept, a lot of what I was originally, I guess, I don't want to say preaching, but what I was kind of discussing came from me reading this book called The Ways of a Superior Man. Really good read, by the way, for men and women. It's not necessarily just for men, but I would advise everybody to read it. But essentially, it was speaking about leading with love, and I know in the black community, it's not necessarily a thing that we as black men are taught or even kind of encouraged to do.
Right.
It's more so of leading with finances or leading with the, with power or vigor or leading, or, a lot of relationships are led by a controlling man, instead of a man that's leading from a loving place in his heart. And it's just like, in our community, we don't necessarily preach that to each other. It's not something that we're commonly discussing amongst each other as men.
Right.
And it's just like, it's one of those elements that's left out of relationships in general, to where when you try to have one, it's not as successful as you kind of seek it to be, because you're not leading from love. You're not coming from a place of love as a black man. And I think that's one of the key things that's missing from our community in general. It's just a sense of love for one another, love for men, love for our black women. And I think that's kind of where it all stems from originally, So
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have to also pay attention to how men, like what men marry for. It's not necessarily always about love. It could be just for like an ego thing, to where it's like, I got the baddest chick that can't nobody else have sex with, and this is my chick, and her body count matters, her the way she carries herself matters more. Like, all that stuff is more valued over just like what she brings to your life, like how she can build you up, how her influence on your life can actually be more beneficial to you. You really realize, and just things of that nature. So I think that's a lot of things that we kind of don't openly address and we don't openly discuss as a community. And I think it's time to kind of start getting into discussing these types of things.
Yeah, I agree because, and not just with men, but I feel like women, we don't always lead with love either. But I that's a really good point because, you know, if we don't have that, like, we're never going to be on the same page, period. Like, because I feel like when you love, you're being kind, you know, and like when you're being kind, you do nice things for people or whatever the case is, and you treat people well, and you don't shoot people in the foot, you know what I mean? Like, because like, where the hell did that come from? But Michelle, what do you think about leading with love, and what are things that you feel like we're missing in our community that we're not on the same page?
I agree with the sentiment that most people don't lead with love.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it stems from not being healed overall. Because whenever you do participate in healing, you carry on like self-love. And that allows you to love other people better. When you start to be able to understand that we're all connected, and you don't have like such a selfish view of life.
Right.
You're not just out looking for what's going to satisfy your ego.
Right.
Because I feel like that's a lot of what goes on. Especially when you read what's happening on social media. It's like, well, women only want us to buy them food. Well, why would you not feed someone?
Right.
You know, what is it that's telling you that feeding another person
It's
is
so
bad?
wrong, right?
I just think a lot of men can't afford to just feed at the capacity that I guess
A woman wants.
women would desire. Yeah, so ideally you get frustrated with that because you know that that's not something. But I mean, it's like having an ego but not having the funds to match it. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like it's all an illusion because you're saying that, you know, some men feel insecure about feeding women because it's too expensive, but I'm just like, not every woman wants
Right.
expensive food.
No, for sure.
But, you know, if you spend enough time on the internet, if you live there enough, you see, like, that's all you see on, or well, it depends on how you curate your timeline, but if you following the shade room, if you following celebrities, you know, reality TV stars, this is all they're doing. They're portraying an image. Like, it's Instagram. You know, a lot of people act and a lot of people don't act. Some people are being honest. Some people are not being honest with, you know, the things that they have or they're obtaining. Like, it's not always real. So it's like, it is frustrating because it's like, we're not doing anything. We're not trying to hurt you or trying to take your money. Well, yeah, I need your money, but because I want to be provided for, I should say that. But like, those are not every woman's intention. So it's like, you know, for example, like, and to add more context, like, I feel like this conversation is, you know, becoming more and more relevant because of this whole Meg and Tory situation. You know, and like, for example, they both have money. They're both millionaires, right? And he just shot her because what?
Well,
And I feel like that situation even was a whole egotistical thing mixed in with short man syndrome, mixed in with being drunk, mixed in with just a whole bunch of whatever the situation is. And it's just kind of like, you know, had he had been in a better headspace before that, or had he had been in a true place of love where he was coming from, I'm pretty sure all that would have been avoided, you know.
Right.
But a lot of times that's like when you have a very low emotional intelligence and you just react based off of what your ego tells you to do, that's when you put yourself in situations you don't want to be in or you don't necessarily need to be in, you know what I'm saying? And then you end up doing something stupid like that when you shoot someone in the foot. So.
Right, because that album he put out after was also ego-based. Because it was like, why did you do that? I didn't either, but the fact that he did it, and then everything that was being talked about it was like how he was sounding real desperate, you know, like, you are not healed.
Right, you have issues.
Yeah, and like, so my question is, like, should we even, should we even be dating if we're not doing our healing?
But I don't know. Well, to speak to their situation, I don't know if they were. I can't confirm or deny. I don't
should we
know.
be having sex?
No, I don't agree that you should be having sex if there's trauma that you need to resolve, and this is me speaking to myself too, because like I'm in that space where it's like I don't even want to have sex with anybody until I feel like I'm in a better space emotionally in my life. But why are we the only ones doing the fucking work?
See that? Well, okay, so he is an example of somebody who is doing work, but I will say that the numbers are slim.
No, I know.
For the fellas.
I'm rare. I know.
The numbers are slim because
I'm rare.
like when you look at who is in the spiritual groups, it's like tons of women.
Yeah.
And men can do that work too.
No, for sure. But like I say, culturally, that's not a thing. That's like you're not going to the barbershop and you hearing niggas talking about emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying? That's not like that's not the common discussion that we have amongst ourselves as men. You know
No, but it
what I'm saying?
needs to be. It needs to be so.
No,
So
for
there
sure, I
needs to
agree.
be somebody, maybe you, doing
Leading the conversation.
Niggas don't want to listen to me.
Really,
That's the
because
thing.
they don't want to listen to me either, and I'm cute. So like,
I don't know what to tell them.
So what can you give us some insight on like what type when things like this happen, if you see your homeboy, you know, emotionally abusing a woman, or and this is hypothetical, not saying that you do, you know, hang out with those type of men, but if that was to happen, like what types of like how do you guys have these conversations?
I'm a sad, so I'm very blunt, very straightforward, very honest. But like I'd be like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
If this is a woman that you claim to be somebody you care about, that your actions aren't depicting that. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to do better about that. You know what I'm saying? Like it would be a conversation to where it's just like, if I see it, because ideally, if you look at black women, like that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's future mother, that's somebody, as somebody that could birth the next whoever, whatever the case may be. So you have to kind of consider that even when you have your own intimate relationships with people, it's like, you're impacting this person's life just as much as they're impacting yours, and you have to treat that with some kind of like courtesy and some kind of like you have to be more cognizant about how you go about treating people. You know what I'm saying? Especially like people that you share extreme intimate spaces with, because ultimately is our like we're just learning about it as a thing in our generation. So you have to think back to when they was doing it and all that kind of stuff, and it was just like, I guess the mentality of just like, if you're going to be set straight, you have to be beat, because that's like a slave mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if you in order for you to act right or act how I need you to act, I'm going to beat you until you do so. And that was passed on to us as kids. That was passed on in relationships, and that's just a thing that we have to be like, okay, this is unhealthy. This is not creating healthy relationships within our community. We have to get away from this and not normalize that. You know what I'm saying? Like and get away from believing that it's okay just because our parents did it to us, and so and look at how it turned out. Which in reality, you turned out damaged, and you don't even necessarily realize that, because you just think that was the norm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people's norms are often toxic, or it's often you also come from a damaged place, and you're not necessarily identifying that and working at it and working to unlearn that kind of stuff. So your life ends up being what it is as a result.
Right. I don't want men to also hit rock bottom. And I feel like, the Tory and Meg situation, like, that was rock bottom, where it's like, it seems like the lowest of his low. I don't know him personally, but it's like, you have to start somewhere so you don't end up in a ditch, in a hole somewhere, because now your life is over, so I definitely want, to have this conversation, because it's like, I want men and women to know, like, it's okay to like start unpacking that trauma, because that's like what you just explained, that's trauma. Like when you talk about getting beat, I'm like, damn, like I got beat as a child. I'm like, that's trauma, like and we have to be okay with unpacking those type of things. Like it's hard, like a lot of men don't want to do the work, because it's like you have to look at yourself in the mirror, and
and you have to be looking at your parents. Like I see a lot of people who don't want to have to accept that their parents may have been abusive. Yeah. And because then they have to say, well, my mama that I love so much, or my daddy, just like me, that I love so much, was really abusive. But again, like those people were not doing their work, and it's 2020. Like I know y'all don't think we're going through all this shifting for no reason. Like the reason why we're being pushed to all of this is so that we can be doing our healing. And I'm not going to get to astrology on y'all, but like there's some things happening in our skies that are saying go do your work.
Right.
So yeah, Tory hit rock bottom. A lot of
Mhm.
people are going to be hitting rock bottom. That's why you see a lot of people trying to kill themselves because they cannot handle the purge that is trying to take place within them. So like this is the time for us to be bringing up emotional intelligence, and like let's normalize being able to talk to each other about the things that we can see in them. Hey, I see you struggling. Would you like to talk to me? If you can't talk to me, why don't you go talk to somebody else? Like there's no shame in seeking assistance for dealing with what you're going through, because we're not going to be able to heal our community. Like we have a much bigger battle to fight than whether or not we should go to Chili's, or can you afford to take me out on a date, or are you going to be able to parent with me? Like we have to fight against those other folks,
Right.
and we need to be able to do it as a unit.
Right.
And we're not going to be able to do that if we don't heal collectively.
And we keep fighting each other, and like we can't even form a united front,
Right.
you know, because, and that's why, you know, I don't, like, I try not to be that person, because like I want all of us to be on the same page, you know, because I feel like when we're together, we're stronger, we're better, we're smarter, and you know, we love better. But it's like the constant, and like I say, I only see this on the internet, you know, like outside of the internet, when I'm talking to I feel like I don't have these type of conversations where it's like, oh well, you know, this nigga said this, or he did this, and I'm just like, what is going on with people inside, that it's like, you know, we keep having these conversations, like, you know, when, especially like Twitter, you know, for example, it's like when things come up, everybody's like, oh well, she's not telling the truth. Like when rape allegations come up or sexual assault allegations come up, like it's always women being gaslit or whatever, you know, and like we can't even express ourselves and you know, let them know what's going on with us, because it's like, you know, we can't even be truthful because we get backlash. You know what I mean?
Well,
Very ego too.
Yeah, all that is true. But I will say there are situations where people will take, because I feel like there is a narrative now on the internet to where it's just like, if whatever the woman says, that's the truth,
Right.
and that's what we're going with. And I mean, I understand what the intention is behind it, because there are a lot of women that don't get their truth to be heard, and there needs to be more of a fight for that, and there needs to be more of a space for women to come and speak their piece. But I think a lot of women can also abuse that into situations that also benefit them, to where it's just like, I can scream rape on a situation where it wasn't even that, and I'm doing so just for my gain, or just to get backing of the internet, so that, you know, I can look like this and like that, whatever the case may be. So it's just like, you kind of have to be careful about those situations, and not necessarily always jump towards a woman's. I mean, not to say that it's not. And I feel like this is a troubling thing to kind of talk about, because if I'm saying like, don't always trust what you hear on the internet or whatever the case may be, it can seem like I'm like anti-woman as a result, but I'm more so like pro-truth.
Yeah.
Like I want to know what it is exactly before I'm just like gung ho behind it. Because a lot of people, it's like all you need is somebody to say something, and then you backing them 100%.
Right.
And then
you don't have all the facts.
Yeah, but you want me to jump on, like you want me to pick a side, and you want me to go over here and support women entirely. And then if I don't do that, then you're saying I'm not protecting black women. But it's just like, well, you know, do I know what I'm even protecting at the end of the day? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the situation? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I've always been. It's like, I don't want to just be pro man or pro woman. I'm more just pro truth, and just seeing like, okay, what is the situation? Even like the Tory and Megan situation, I wasn't just 100% on Megan's side just because she had got shot. Like, I just want to understand what all transpired beforehand before I'm just like 100%. Because even like when she had got shot, like the police report said that there was no fingerprints from Tory on the gun, and then that there was a bullet fragment in her foot, to where it was like, to where I kind of pictured it as he was shooting at the ground, or somebody was shooting at towards her feet, and then the bullet kind of like hit her in the foot or something like that, to where, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it could be like, honestly, there's also perspectives where it could also be a thing to where it wasn't as big of a situation as it potentially was seeming to be, but it works in her favor, because on the internet there's this narrative of whatever the woman says is correct, so run with that, we gonna rock with that, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else to be said. And you know, however it turns out is how it's gonna turn out. I don't really have a, you know, a dog in this fight, or I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
But just off of speaking from a perspective, is just kind of like, you never really know until you know. So it's just like just to go for one thing or go for one perspective. I think it's not necessarily fair until we really know kind of what happened entirely, and we still don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever will.
Do you feel
Yeah.
like celebrities behave like narcissists and they use the rest of us for validation for their whatever?
Yes.
I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, I do think that's a thing, and I think celebrities often,
They have issues.
I think celebrities use whatever is going on in society to their advantage. To where it's just like, because if you think about it, ever since there's been this rise of the black woman or rise of the liberated woman, it's become it's in our music now to where it's just like everything is about a woman, and not to say like I'm mad or anything about it because men have been doing this shit for 20, 30 years
But
and
that's
rapping
what's
on
going
stuff.
on.
But yeah, now it's like since it's a thing to where women are more empowered and speaking their mind and being more liberated. Now in our music, it's you know, I'm gonna put my cat in this nigga's mouth and he gonna pay me and I wish he would say something. And
But
if
they're
you don't,
like 20 something.
I mean, and like I say, it's cool. But I'm just saying they're capitalizing off of what the narrative is in society now, to where it's just like it's very like women empowered, like, you know, to talk how they want to be how they want to, and express themselves however they feel the need to, you know.
Well, everybody's not gonna sound like India Ari. I mean,
No.
even though she doesn't say I'm gonna put my cat in his mouth and he gonna pay me, she's still saying I am the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And I have no
like-
problem with it. I think there's beauty in it, and I think there's like a fieriness to it that's kind of appealing in things of that nature. But I do think there's different ways of doing it outside of just being so I guess
Vulgar.
not even vulgar, because I mean vulgar
No, they are
in hip hop
being
is cool.
vulgar.
No, but I think it's just like it's a narrative that now every female rapper that's coming out is kind of trying to fall behind. It's like this like you know, he either paying me or giving me dick, and I wish he would say something to me about it. And
You
you
feel
know what I'm
like
saying?
men are about to start being more discarded.
No, I think if you have insecurities within yourself, it's gonna make you feel a way, and that's kind of what you also see too, is like men who react to this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I think you see it becoming more of a thing to where it's getting called out, and it's kind of low key embarrassing to see men kind of like reacting to women being like this, because it's like
Because they can't handle it. And
Right.
I don't think that, like, I'm on the fence about the vulgarity of the lyrics and what's going on in the music now. Like, it's fun, it's cute, but it's like, then at the same time, it's like, I don't be going around telling niggas that I'm gonna, you know, put my cat in their mouth and take they, like, I don't do that in real life.
Right.
So, it's definitely.
But that also turns into what influences, you know, younger kids and younger women, and just the part of society that needs to follow something, because not everybody is an independent thinker. Not everybody is somebody that can just process things for themselves and feel like, okay, well, you know, this music's fun and cool, but as for me and myself, I carry myself like this. I do this like this. A lot of people are just like, oh shit, this is the norm now. This is what, because you have to think about music as propaganda.
Mhm.
If you hear it over and over and you regurgitate it over and over in your subconscious, you start developing these mentalities.
Right.
Mhm.
And if you're not even aware of what you're putting in your subconscious, a lot of times you just take it on, and you're not even, you know, you don't even realize what's going on within you, to where it's just like, well, nigga, you need to take me to Steak 48 if you really trying to apply
like
pressure
me.
on me and all this stuff, you know, like, you know, shit like that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
in reality, nigga, like I seen a meme the other day where it was like, nigga, back in my day, nigga, we was happy going to Chili's or like TJ Fridays or Bennigan's or some shit for a first date, and that was fire. You know what I'm saying? So it's just
Ain't no more Applebee's or Chili's
Yeah,
or
but
TGI
I think
Fridays.
if you look for a certain type of woman, you're gonna get that Steak 48 thing, because everybody's looking for
That's how
that
they look on the
Instagram
internet.
chick.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And those are the ones who are trying to go to Steak 48. People like
They don't
me,
have any money.
somebody's mom trying to teach second grade, be like, oh, ain't nobody trying to fuck with this bitch. 'Cause she teaches second grade. So, like, I'm talking about going to Chili's. But nobody's talking about going to Chili's. They're looking for the fat ass and the little bitty dress and, wow, she's beautiful. She's also 21 years old. That's why she's trying to go to Steak 48.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm talking about being with nobody who is about some real shit. So those are the people who are listening to the music and going, yes, that's how I'm about to live my life. So when you see somebody who's like, hey, let's get down, it's like, you too old. So, like,
Yeah.
where is the happy medium?
I don't think like I think that women like you or women that don't, you know, go by these narratives, you can still get nice things out of men without having, well,
I'm just trying
in
not
my
to get fucked
experience,
over.
you
Keep
can
your
get-
shit.
At this point in life,
Yeah, like.
but you can still get nice things out of men without doing the most, you know?
no,
Like,
I agree. Like,
and
just even with me being a man, like when I do something for somebody, it's not necessarily because I'm expecting something in return. It's just out of love that I have for you, or like an appreciation I have for you. Like I want to do this because I want to. It's not. I don't care about any. Like I've learned a long time ago. Like if you're gonna do something out of love, like do it because you want to. Don't do it because you're trying to benefit from somebody or you're trying to get something out of somebody. Like
right.
if you don't have the intentions of doing it out of love, then don't do
Then
it at
don't
all.
do it.
Period.
And then if you carry that mentality, you won't be like you won't get mad when you buying somebody steak 48 and she don't give you ass the next night or whatever the case may be. It's just like, well, I mean, you're trying to buy her affection and sex from her, and when you get mad because it's not working out for you, it's like, well, yeah, every woman's not like that.
And you
Right.
really don't even like the girl. Like, if
Yeah.
you like somebody, then I feel like that's when you should go there with them. And sometimes you don't even, like I said, like, you don't have to do anything to get nice things out of men. Like, men do nice things for me all the time, and I don't have sex with them. And I feel like with women, we have to learn how to channel our feminine energy and our power to other productive things. You know, like I hear a lot of older women say this: stop chasing after men. Like, stop looking for them, because while you're just sitting there just doing you, they're gonna come. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's why, you know, we have these back and forths, because it's like we're constantly trying to get things out of each other. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's like, for what? Just do you, live your life, and be okay with that.
Well, I think that comes from just a lack of people doing stuff in our lives to begin with, you know, to where it's just
We're
like,
already at the finish line. First date, bitch went to Jared in her mind and picked
Yeah.
out her ring.
Right.
Or you also have the that ain't enough for me,
Right.
you know, because daddy
Of how-
raised a princess.
Yeah.
exactly.
So I mean, it's just really difficult to say which is the bigger issue here, because
Yeah.
men are running from one group and then chasing after another group and then feeling wounded by the princesses, and then the other girls are like, but I'll take you, and like, but I don't want you, bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's dependent on like how you were raised. Like, my dad, he transitioned when I was 8 or 9, I think it was. So I didn't grow up with having a man in the house. Well, I shouldn't say that. My brother's dad was there, but he ain't shit. So anyway, I didn't grow up with having a father figure in the house. And then my grandparents, they were married. But I saw my grandparents, you know, like, my grandfather, he provided. But like you said with your dad, he was emotionally unavailable. So, like, but I knew that if I asked, you know, my grandparents for something, like, they're not going to tell me no, you know. Like, that's just how I was raised. Like, I was always provided for, above and beyond. Like, I wasn't no spoiled rich kid, but it was just like, if I needed something, like, I was in a lot of extracurricular activities, like, examples like that. Like, I was a well-rounded child, I should say. And so it's definitely hard for me to hear no. Like, it's getting better, you know, with therapy, but like, I'm definitely not where I used to be, I should say that. Like, it took a lot of growing for me to get to this point. So I guess it's just dependent on like how you're raised, and if you have a man in your life or not, and how that man is, like, who he is.
But I
You
think
know, like,
also that's a thing for men too, because a lot of these moms have done their sons in a similar way. Either they're using them as a replacement for the husband who is emotionally unavailable, or they are making them feel like they'll never be enough.
right.
Which, in that sense, they're still using them as the replacement for the husband,
A
because
man.
they're like sucking the emotions out of them. And then here comes a woman trying to have a relationship with a grown man, but he's like, but I gotta talk to my mama first, because my mama say, and you're like, but you're like 50 years old, so are you serious? But they are for real, you know. So like,
No, that's facts. I
Yeah.
definitely do believe that. That's crazy. I haven't came across that yet, and I pray to the Most High that
yes, just
that
push it
does
away
not
from you.
run across my desk.
And they seem really well-rounded too. Usually those are the ones who are like, I have 6 degrees and I'm on the news or wherever prestigious position, and be like, we can't go out tonight because my mama slipped and she says she fell and she can't get up, so I gotta. And then like there's like a whole, like she's at a home or something. I'm sorry. So like she doesn't really
And then
need
you gotta
them,
go there
but
every day
yeah.
to visit her.
So like it's like there's all these different dynamics. So like we have men who are emotionally unavailable because they're attached in another way or they're afraid to be open, and then we've got women who are emotionally unavailable because they don't really know how to have those kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot, but that's why I said, like, I think at the base of it, if we just do our own work, go to therapy if you need to, do self-healing, whatever you have to do to reach your highest vibration, because then of course your match will match you.
Right.
And you won't have to be seeking or anything like that. You'll just be like somewhere like at a recording studio or something and be like, oh, I think I like you. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you won't have to be working too hard to vibe with somebody.
Right.
Because we're spending so much time overthinking, and it's not supposed to be like that.
It's not.
Yeah,
Just
I agree.
just be. Just be who you are and just
Right. And
Like
don't
I
be
said,
worried
be
about
like-
whether or not people are going to reject you for being authentic, because
somebody
all those
gonna
people
like
don't matter.
it.
Right.
But I think some people aren't comfortable being themselves entirely. Like I don't think a lot of people have been given spaces to be themselves entirely, to where or to be in a space with somebody else and be themselves entirely because they don't trust them necessarily to just be in your own skin and know that the other person is going to be receiving of that and all that kind of stuff. But then a lot of times people don't get to that point because they're so damaged and they want to protect themselves and they want to be defensive all the time and all just having all these triggers and different things that kind of keep them from being in the open and vulnerable state that you need to be in with people in order to have the type of relationships you kind of seek from people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And even just like knowing myself as a man and growing up, like my emotions were never catered to, like as just growing up in general. Like because a lot of times people take me as like an asshole or like a whatever, and assume that I don't have feelings as a result, but I do. It's just I'm aware of them and I express them and I do it in a different way outside of just reacting to stuff all the time. Where the case would be like, I know how to appropriately deal with my emotions with people and with myself, to where it's just like I'm not always just openly just showing it just sporadically and erratically or whatever the case may be. And people often identify that as just you not having any emotions. And it's just like, no, I'm just
You know how to control them.
yeah, it's like I have better control of my emotions than you probably would think. But that doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right. Yeah.
I
No,
think
that's
for a
true.
lot of women that, like, because of us, like, if you don't show any, we'll be like, you're dead inside and you don't care about me.
And you don't care
You know
about
what I mean?
me.
And
You
you don't
don't
care about
like me.
So, like, how do you show your
Through action.
love?
Through actions, I do things. I go out of my way for people. I plan stuff. I will
He
cater.
cooks.
Yeah, I'll cook. I'll plan an event for us to do. I'll learn about you in ways that I know, and I'll do things that cater to you specifically. Like I'm very attentive to people in that kind of respects. Like I'm very big on like doing stuff for people that I know they would appreciate, that they would like, because you can't treat everybody the same way. Everybody, you have to kind of cater to each person as they are. So I often pay attention to how people are, or pay attention to things that people say and kind of cater to that, and and try to do things that are in accordance to the things that I know they would like. Just things like little shit like that. That's I feel like is more valuable in life than whatever else that you might think that like Steak 48 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like
I feel like that place should close. Like, I'm just tired of it.
I just get
I've
tired.
never been.
I just
so
get
I
tired
don't
of people
know.
taking a photo in front of that shit and making it seem like they like it's
Everybody's rich because
like,
they go to
what does
Steak
that
48.
mean? Like, what does that mean?
I don't know. I haven't been, so I don't know. And like I'm not saying like I grew up going to the fanciest places, but like like I said, my grandparents, they like nice things, so we went to nice restaurants. I went to nice restaurants as a child.
I like a fogo de chao, or just like
yeah.
True Lux and lemon. I love eating at nice restaurants. That doesn't mean I gotta like flaunt that shit every time I go.
I mean, do you really have to tell people anyway?
No.
No, you don't.
You don't, and that's the thing that's confusing about me. It's like every time you go eat something nice, you have to advertise it. You have to show people like, is this like a standard you want?
Unless you're a food blogger,
Yeah.
then okay.
Also,
But
a
there-
food blogger.
Oh yeah.
But you still don't show.
Yeah, exactly. I post my reviews and I show it on there, but that's as far as it goes. I don't have to like show my food off every time I go somewhere nice or whatever.
Yeah.
But even food bloggers, they ain't going to Steak 48. They going.
Nah, you going to like you going probably like little
Brennan's.
good stuff or like
like
stuff that's like are like hidden gems in the city that people don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But I feel like that is what is one of the biggest problems with our community is the perception of wealth and success is wrong.
Yeah.
These places that we're going to, the way that we're flexing, you're not wealthy because you went somewhere.
Yeah.
You're not wealthy because you bought the nicest car. I mean, yeah, you might have money, but like wealth is not.
It doesn't mean anything. Like the things that the material things are just status symbols
Yeah.
to pretend or show that
Mhm.
or kind of show that you have money, because it's like some people you don't know what's going on in their real life when they're
Yeah.
posting it on Instagram or Twitter, whatever the case is. That's why I don't really be going too deep into like these sob stories on the internet too, because people be lying, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But they're just status symbols, and I had to come to terms with that too, like, because I was like, thinking about like budgeting and my money and whatever, and then I started getting into like, why do I have this relationship with money?
Mm-hmm.
It's because growing up, like, especially in high school, I went to a predominantly so-called black high school, so it was like everybody had the newest sneakers, everybody had the newest Jordans, the Nikes, whatever, and if you didn't have it, then you wasn't popular,
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to come to terms with that and be like, why do you want this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want, and I used to be outside waiting for Jordan releases, I ain't gonna lie, like, that was my thing. I really like sneakers, and like, and as I'm getting older, I'm like, why do you want these things? Like, why does it matter? Like, why are we trying to impress people on the internet when it's like they don't know what's going on in your life? They have no idea. They probably got some fucked up shit going on too, and like they don't want to show it. I don't want to show my fucked up shit, but like, why do we care so much? It's like we're trying to compete with each other instead of trying to, and not to sound cliche, but we ain't trying to eat with each other. You know what I mean? Like, what's the problem? Like, we have to really, like, going back to the trauma thing, like, we really have to dig deep and understand, like, why we need this BMW, why we need this Lexus, why we need to go to Steak 48 or Fuego de Chao, whatever it is, to, post it on Instagram for people to see, because it's like, it's not like you can't have nice things. Everybody wants nice things, like, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have them, but like, what is the rush to get them? You know what I mean?
Yes. And I feel like as I move and grow my business, like, I'm like, do I want to be more successful? Because then people are going to expect me to buy more stuff. And I like going to the thrift store. And if I am comfortable in a lot of my current aspects.
Right.
So I'm like.
And you can find expensive things
Right.
at the thrift store.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the way I operate and the way that I change my life, people expect me to be rich.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but I'm trying to manifest health and a positive vibration.
Right.
Now, does that mean that you attract more money? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that doesn't mean rich.
Right.
But when you look at the internet, everyone's like, oh, you know how to manifest? Does that mean you're rich?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're off.
Yeah.
That you're way off, because you can manifest anything.
We're trying to satisfy our egos.
Right.
I guess I'm answering my own question.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's essentially all it is. It's just like, it's a way to be validated,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you're seeking validation from everybody but from yourself.
Yes.
Right.
And so as a result, you're always feeling the need to keep up with the hottest trends or like what's going on whatever. It's like everybody wants to tap into the exclusivity of like having everything right now and
Yeah.
immediately and being one of the first people with it. Like, people take more pride in that than they do in just like their peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which
You know
is
what
so
I'm saying?
important.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's more valuable to have than
Than
anything
Yeah.
materialistic that you can buy. But a lot of times people just don't get to that place to where they're thinking about, what's really important to me versus what's important to
others.
people.
Yeah.
Or what's important to the perception of what people think about me.
Yeah, because
Like
they
a
don't
lot
have
of-
it either.
Yeah, like a lot of people, like the comment section on Instagram, it's full of just like bullshit perspectives on what, just like a bullshit society way of thinking about stuff. Or like, how like people have their first thought and they advertise it in comments. Like, people often believe that that's the way, or that's like we should cater to that mentality. But that's just a very surface level way of just even perceiving things and just even interpreting what's being posted.
Yeah.
Because it like okay, there's a video that went viral. I don't know if you've seen it or not. With me at my job where I was DJing, and it's like the twins with the big butts or whatever behind me.
Yeah.
And then like some people were saying stuff like, "Oh, I want a man as unbothered as him," and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like,
you don't even know me.
like I was just doing my job, like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? And people are making up all these narratives like, "Oh, well, of course he's not bothered behind him. Look at them. Look how they look." And you know what I'm saying? Or just like, "Oh yeah, man, I want a man like him that just don't be seeing nobody else but what you know." Blah. And I'm just like, bro, the real situations. I was at work. They always hear. They always do that shit. Like it doesn't mean anything. But it's just like you can create a narrative off of just a 30-second video. Make your own perception of it, and run a whole narrative on your own outside of what actually happened. And it's just like this is something that commonly happens on the internet.
Yeah.
But we aren't even identifying that as a thing that exists, and what we're rocking with it. We just going with that and shit, and just like, well, shit. Like I could easily be like you know, I could run with that and then turn it into something else that doesn't exist and just keep that narrative going. But that's not even me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something I would even want to capitalize off of. You know, so
right, for sure.
It's just like it's just shit like that is just, you know, that's why I feel like people get caught up in like what other people are saying and other people are you know, the perception of everybody else versus like your own perception. Because like had I not had my own about it, like I would be in the comments like responding to everybody saying like, oh well, you know, blah 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 blah, like, you know,
right.
And it's just like
that's a waste of energy.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter at the end because I don't
even know these people.
My mentality is if you're willing to go into like a gossip blog, Instagram, and go in the comments and leave a comment, like you're not a person I'm trying to hook.
Like I said on my last podcast, I blocked all them gossip sites because it's just like I don't need that energy on my timeline.
Yeah.
Like it's just bullshit. It's nothing productive going on. Nobody's having any productive conversations about anything. Right. But I know we kind of went off on a tangent, but to steer it back a little bit, I wanted to get your advice, Tori. Well, everybody's advice, but what other, besides leading with love, what other things can men do to like have better relationships with women and to make them feel more comfortable?
Well, the thing that I'm kind of noticing now is like a lot of men aren't really tapped into their masculinity at the level that they need to be tapped into it. And I think that kind of comes from just one, not having any guidance within it, and two, even understanding what that really means. Because masculinity isn't just like I'm a strong, powerful man, I do all that shit. It's like, it's more about being a very linear person, being a person that solves issues, being a person that can actually come in and do something and fix something and be trusted to do that.
Trusted, integrity.
Yeah, like a man that's willing, you know, a man that can make a decision that best fits a woman or whoever it is that he's making a decision for, or you know what I'm saying, just things along that nature to where it's like you're a problem solver. You're a man that can actually that brings something to the table that can benefit everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And just having enough sense or enough logic within yourself or enough knowledge within yourself to leave when the situation comes up. Because what I'm seeing a lot now, just as being a single man and just being around, is just like when I make a decision, like I don't want to say make a decision for women, but when I provide women with options, or when I provide women with, like, say you have a question about this or that, or you have a curiosity, I'm willing to give you a perspective that could best benefit you, and you can make the decision on your own. But just me being able to give you that, you now have a perspective of, you know, that you probably didn't consider yourself, because, you know, the way women processes things is way different from how men process it. Like, we're very, like, you know, we're very left-brain about a lot of stuff. And so, but that's also our strength at the same time. I feel like women are more right-brain in their sense, whereas, like, they're more artistic, and they more so live to exist within themselves, you know. And so, like, women like to be more versus men where we like to do more, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and so you kind of have to just use that to your advantage, to where it's just like, if, like, where a woman, I feel like women want to live in spaces with men to where they can trust him enough to make decisions, do things, and all that stuff, and she can just exist and be herself and live in her femininity and be comfortable within it, and as a result, like, both parties benefit each other, because you have one party who's Because I don't think men really understand. Like we crave the femininity that women have, but we aren't getting it because women are having to tap into their masculinity a lot more nowadays versus having to be in their femininity. Because now you having to take on the role of, being a provider for your family as a mom or whatever the case may be. Working jobs, owning a business, doing things like that. I think what was it? The Asian chick that Jeezy's about to marry. People had got like fired up behind her saying like she just wants to be. She wants to be in a submissive role in her marriage because everything that she does in her day-to-day life, she's having to be the masculine role in that, and she just wants to come home and be in her feminine energy, and people got mad about that. But I'm just like, do y'all not understand? Like, that's kind of ideal for a lot of women that want to do that want to live like that, and I don't think there's an issue there.
I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I already wrote my petition.
I want to be a stay-at-home mom and wife.
And I don't necessarily think that's an issue. Like, I mean, if a man's able to do it, then that's cool. But I don't think it's far fetched for a woman to want to live like that.
No, and like the thing is that like I still want to work. Like I was just telling him, like I want to be able to do creative projects. I want to still be able to do my program because I think there's value in being able to balance your own. Because I think we all have our divine masculine and our divine feminine.
Right.
So like to balance that yourself is beautiful, but like it would be really really nice to be able to like lay on somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
So like I just at some point I just want to drop the ball and be like, can you
so that
pick
I
up
can
the slack?
Yeah.
So I can breathe a little bit because it's like having to do that constantly. It takes away from me being what I need to be for my kids, which is in that softer role. Because at the same time I'm like, hey, it's school time.
Right.
Hey, it's this. So then when it's time to play and have fun, I'm like, hold on.
Yeah, you gotta switch
take a break.
it off.
Yeah. So it's like it's a lot. So I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with what Jeannie said, to be honest. But
I didn't listen to it, but like I definitely agree. I'm in a space where I say this all the time. I don't dream of labor. Like I want to work, like do creative things, but